Hi, Papa Tom here again. This time I thought I'd give you a bit about my background. I'm not doing this just for fun. And I come with a background that is, different, I should say. Because there are a lot of old men who want to tell you all about their life and how they had good fortune and they made it or didn't make it or what they did. I came from a very, very, very poor family. But at the time, I didn't know it. I was having fun. I would get up in the morning. Mom would say, "Tom, go out and play." She'd stay home with my three sisters. And I would go out at sunbreak and play and come home at sundown. She'd call me from the second story balcony, "Tom," and the boys would say, "Hey, your mom's calling you." Okay. I'd head home. We'd have dinner and I'd listen to the radio. And in my day, we only had the radio. And then I'd go to bed. My bedroom consisted of a single bed, a piano, a baby grand, which my mother cherished. She always wanted her children to play the piano, and none of us ever did. But that's where I slept. I didn't have a closet. I had a rail in the corner where my clothes hung. But to me, that was just the way it was. And we had three bedrooms. My mom and dad slept in one, my three sisters slept in one, and I slept in one. And we had one other room and a kitchen. That was it. Second floor. Never thought about it. Always had fun. I'd go out and play with the kids in the neighborhood, and that was it. But going to school was a bit of a problem. I did go to one school from kindergarten through sixth grade. Have parent-teacher conferences, and my mom would be told, "Geez, your son has a fairly high IQ. I'm not a genius by any stretch of the imagination, but, above average." But my grades didn't reflect it. I would get C's, occasional B, occasional D, occasional F. A's were, unheard of. I didn't grasp things. I fell back. What they didn't do in those days, which they do today, is they watch students and they figure out what type of a person is this? What type of a personality does this have? Well, I had an attention deficit disorder. I would pay attention and understand for a while, and then I'd get bored or whatever, and I'd look the other way or start doodling, and my mind would wander and away I would go. So I never really had good grades. Well, graduated from the sixth grade, went into the seventh, which was high school. Well, in Youngstown, that meant I went to Bennett High School. So I went there for a couple of weeks. Well, we moved to California for greener pastures. Well, my dad worked at a dam site, and yet he went to night school. He held two jobs, a full-time job, a part-time job. And he was nice to a Chinese family, so they were nice to him, and they rented him their two-bedroom house. Actually, it was a two-bedroom house. There was a bedroom for my folks, a bedroom for the girls, and I slept in the living room. I couldn't go to bed till everyone went to bed, and I got up when the first person got up. That's just the way it was. And what did I do? I went out and played. Well, I ended up going to 5 different high schools, which I went to Wilson in Youngstown. I went to Washington and McKinley and Pasadena high schools. And I went from Pasadena Junior High to Pasadena Senior High. And then I went to Temple City High, where I graduated. God knows. It was interesting. I always transferred at Christmas time. Well, you try that in the middle of the year, changing schools. I went to 5 different schools and always changed at Christmas time. Well, Christmas isn't exactly a fun time in school because by then every boy and girl has made their friends and they got to know one another, and in comes a stranger, Tom Barron, and they'd make room for me in the class and I'd sit down. Well, for instance, you take chemistry. It's a 2-part course, and it starts with learning the lab, and the second half is learning the chart, which in my day, the chart consisted of maybe 10, 15 chemicals. Well, today it's thousands, so you need a computer to keep up with it. Well, I would go to school and I learned the lab. I would go to the new school and they'd say, well, we learned the chart last period. This semester we're learning the lab. I said, well, I already know the lab, but I don't know the chart. So what happened at test time? I failed it. I didn't know the chart, but I knew the lab. So maybe I'd get a C or a D. And that went on and on and on. Spanish was the same. I had a teacher that wanted me to only know how to speak Spanish. Speak it, I don't care if you can write it, I don't care if you can spell it, but you have to be able to talk. So I went to a semester, I talked Spanish, and I went to the new school and she says, I don't care if you can talk it, you have to be able to write it and punctuate it and know the Spanish language. Well, halfway through the second semester, she whispered in my ear, I'll make a deal with you. If you'll get up and walk out of here, I'll make a record that you never took this course. Man, what a deal. I got up and left. So needless to say, I did graduate, but not with good grades. Well, in that day, they had the draft, and every young man had to go into the military. Well, realizing that and not wanting to go for 4 years, while I was in high school, they offered me a 2-year program of active duty, and the rest would be, well, what would it be? You'd go to monthly meetings and summer camps. So I thought, that sounds good. 2 years active duty instead of 4, I'll take it. So I signed up for it. Well, come graduation from high school, a man knocked on my door and was soliciting people to go to Woodbury College. Well, Woodbury College sounded good. It went all year round. It had no breaks, no summer vacation, no Easter vacation, no Christmas vacation. You went all year round. You went from 8 in the morning till noon, and from noon on, you were expected to get a job and earn money to pay your tuition. I said, that sounds interesting. And in 2 years, you got a 4-year degree. You actually put in more time in the classroom in that 2 years than a person who had a 4-year degree. Well, he sold me. I went to Woodbury and I graduated and I got a degree from Woodbury. Well, then Uncle Sam said, you know what? You still owe us that 2 years. So I went active in the military for 2 years, the Navy. I enjoyed it. I love the ocean. I love being on a ship. Went to the Orient, served it well, came back, and I went to work. Well, in those days, they offered you 2 things. You looked in the newspaper for your job in the want ads, and they offered a job at $300 a month. I thought, well, I can handle this, go take it. I got a degree from Woodbury. I got my military behind me. I'm 24, 25 years old. What the heck, let's go. I'm single. So I go in and interviewed. They said, fine, you're hired. We'll start you at $200 a month. I said, wait a minute. In the paper you said $300 a month. Now you're offering me $200? Well, you're single, you're living at home, you don't need $300 a month. Thanks, but no thanks. I finally found a job with Pacific Finance. In those days, finance companies would loan small amounts of money to people so they could buy furniture or get cash, much like a bank does today. There were banks, but the finance companies were also there. So I worked for a finance company. And then I thought, geez, the GI Bill offers me $300 a month tax-free to go to college. That was no hard decision. I was earning $300 a month taxable and working for it. I could get $300 a month and go to school. And what do you do in school? You meet people and you get a further education. So away I went to college, and that ends this episode. Thank you very much.